Podcast. I'm a big film nerd, Everett.
And I'm Emerald, and I'm engaged to a nerd. I'm also going to say just really quick, if you hear any noise, our dogs are in here with us while we're recording this time.
On this week's episode, we will be covering two movies. We've got Killers of the Flower Moon by Martin Scorsese.
And Bodies, 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 we finally got around to it, directed by Helena Rain.
For Killers of the Flower Moon, we will do non-spoilers and then spoilers. Since Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is a little over a year old now, we are just going to go straight into a full review for that one. Time codes will be down below for all of this, and let's get into it.
The Osage. They have the worst land possible. But they outsmarted everybody. The land had oil on it. Black gold.
Alright, Killers of the Flower Moon is the latest movie by Martin Scorsese. He co-wrote with Eric Roth, and it stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Lily Gladstone, and then a bunch of other people in smaller roles. First off, warning, this is a 3.5-hour movie with no intermission, not split into two parts. They expect you, I guess, to have brought in snacks and then not have to go to the bathroom after drinking anything or consuming your snacks. It's just...
And also, it could have been an hour and a half. There was no reason for a 3.5-hour movie.
Yeah, it's a little... Not a little. It's quite bloated and slow, and a lot of stuff happens that's... Again, this is based on like a book, and we talk about this a lot. Just because it's in the book doesn't mean it needs to go into the movie. And I think this movie really struggles from that concept. And yeah, there is kind of like two parts to this movie, or almost three parts. That could have been like 3 episodes of a miniseries, or split the movie into 2 hour 45 movies.
Yeah, a limited series would have done this very well, because then you can, breathe between episodes.
Yeah, but it is 3.5 hours. Like, there's a reason when you go to like a play, they have an intermission. It's because that's a long time to just sit and look at one thing and not get up, stretch your legs, go get a snack, go to the bathroom.
Yeah, no, if you feel the need that you absolutely have to see it, which I wouldn't recommend either, wait for streaming so you can pause and exist outside it. But it just... I didn't think it was good. The couple behind us walked out halfway through. Like, it was not great.
Yeah. I don't think this is a bad movie. I think it is like well shot, well acted, put together competently. Like, all the parts are there, but again, it's so long. And I'm not a huge Scorsese fan, and it has his tracking shot, like moving through a crowd that he's famous for doing, like 15 times, and it just slows the film way down. And yeah, there is nothing about this that makes me want to re-watch it, especially, and I think this is the biggest criticism of the film, it is not about the Osage Indians or... anything to do with them. I mean, obviously it is, but this movie really wants to market itself as that. Martin Scorsese comes forward at the beginning to do one of those director's messages that's like, hey, I worked really hard with elders in these tribes to make this movie authentic. And then literally it's just, other than the fact that it's a true story, you could copy and paste anything in there. It does not feel personal to that tribe. It just feels very generic in the handling of them, and they're inconsequential in the grand scheme of this movie. It is about white people, directed by a white person.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's literally written by a white man, starring a white man, for the white man. It's not like... Had it like centered around the wife, it might have been more interesting.
Yeah, Lily Gladstone is the best part of this movie. She's really good in it. She's incredible in it. Her character is super interesting and goes through a lot of stuff that's fascinating and I would love to learn more about. But she is the third down on the billing because she's the third at best, most important character in this movie. And the top two are the white guys. And yeah, they're not supposed to be heroes or like, white savior type things, but they want you to feel sympathetic towards some of them. And I just don't, because they're not good people.
They're not. It was just... And in my opinion also, had this not had the cast list that it did, or the director that it did, no one would ever talk about it. It would come out, it would be swept under the rug, it would never be discussed again. But because Martin Scorsese is such a big director, other people are willing to work with him who are also really, really famous, and so it gets like all this
money and
spots
attention
and everything,
yeah.
and it's just, it doesn't deserve it.
Yeah,
it was a fine movie.
Yeah, I really, it's a real middle of the road kind of movie. That's the type of thing that your dad loved and makes you watch as one of your first like R-rated movie type things, and he's like, oh, it's so deep and about all this stuff, but it's just not. And then you go, oh yeah, I remember watching that 5 years ago, I guess, and forget about it otherwise.
Yep.
But now we will head into some spoilers. Alright, spoilers for Killers of the Flower Moon. Basically, this focuses on Robert De Niro as this cattle magnate type guy in a near or on the Osage Reservation. And his nephew, Leonardo DiCaprio, comes to stay with him. And they are greedy and want all the money and don't believe it should be with the Osage, even though Robert De Niro's constantly fake praising them and pretending to be their friends, even when he's just taking out life insurance policies on them and then trying to get them killed. And Leonardo DiCaprio ends up falling in love with one, / getting pushed into the relationship and encouraged by his uncle because they want her oil rights. Because that's where the real money is, and so he, quote unquote, falls in love with her. They have very little development on that relationship other than he just says some gross, weird men things, being like, haha, but you love me, and she's like, nope, and then he goes, yep, you do, and then they get married.
Yeah, yeah. Their relationship's not believable. He's a bad parent, and then he just does bad things the entire time. And at the end, it seems like they're trying to like blame other people for all of this, but Leonardo DiCaprio's literally the one who hired all of them to kill his wife's entire family. He's not a good guy, and they want you to be sympathetic towards him.
Yeah, and he spends half the movie drunk, and Gladstone constantly has to be like, hey, you're drunk again, like, come on, and he neglects their children and her, and yeah, so basically then they start escalating their plot to get the rights to the oil and everything, and so they start hiring some people to commit some murders, and Leonardo DiCaprio is incompetent / bad at explaining how to do things / doesn't hire the right people or whatever, and all the murders slowly start going more and more awry and more public and more obvious, and they apparently in the end kill around like 30 people over the years, and so yeah, it's going poorly, and then finally, the Osage put some money together and go to the U.S. government in Washington and convince them to finally send the FBI. And the FBI comes and figures it out and puts pressure on Leonardo DiCaprio. And then he becomes the hero and betrays his family and goes to court and testifies. But really, he's not good. So also throughout this, his wife suffers from diabetes, and they get her insulin, and then his uncle tells him to poison her, and so he slowly is poisoning and killing her and making it so that he can inherit her land and stuff. And then when she finally is like willing to forgive him for murdering her entire family, she asks like, did you poison me? And he says no, and so she walks out, and it's supposed to be like this powerful moment for her, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I would have even forgiven him.
Yeah, and then when it ends, they do all of a sudden switch to like some people telling this story
it's like a
on
live
a
radio
stage.
show where like they're making funny clanking noises, and he writes a letter, and then you hear in the background.
And it could have been a fun, clever thing to include had it been there the whole time, but it hadn't. It was out of nowhere, and then they just like wrap up the story in the way like a Lifetime movie would have it in the credits, where they just explained what happened, and they're like, oh, and then she married some other guy and then died really young of diabetes. The end. Also, Leonardo DiCaprio got a life sentence, but he got out early because he's a white man.
Yeah, and then they're like, and she dies young from diabetes, and we're going to read you a bit from her obituary. And then Martin Scorsese himself, the actual Martin Scorsese, walks out and reads the obituary, like this powerful moment, and I'm just confused why that's who he picked other than ego.
There was almost... Okay, so there's two moments that almost felt like it was like Wes Anderson copying almost. Like there was one where they were talking earlier in the movie and someone's like, and then I asked him this, and then it like switches over to the scene and he like asks him, and it was literally like word for word something Wes Anderson has done in one of his movies. And then the ending with that weird radio show thing, I was like, this is very Wes Anderson-y, but not as fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't even like Wes Anderson. It just was odd and out of place.
Yep. And I would have had Lily Gladstone come out and read her character's obituary, have one of the kids who survived her, then the actors who played them come out and read it, have someone actually connected to these people in the real world come out and read it. Anyone but Martin Scorsese. Honestly, him or DiCaprio would have been the worst possible picks in terms of like optics, I feel, for who should read that obituary at the end.
Yeah, because like the whole point was that nowhere in it did they mention like the murders that had happened to her family and stuff, so it's like...
But you're making a whole movie about it for people's entertainment.
Yeah.
And so and again, there are some good performances. It is directed by a very competent director. It has some interesting moments and ideas, and the story is interesting and worth being told. I just don't think this was the right movie for it.
Yeah. I am not a DiCaprio girly. He irks me, and I don't think he's that great of an actor.
And he's gross.
But there was one scene where he found out his kid died and he was like sobbing, and I thought that was very well acted. But besides that moment and then Lily Gladstone's entire performance, because she is a queen and an icon, it was all fine. Yeah,
I was impressed at how well he could keep a frown on his face. There's literally like only 2 scenes in the whole movie where DiCaprio's lips literally aren't like turned down at 90-degree angles. It's pretty impressive.
So what would you rate it?
6, 7 out of 10.
I'm between a 3 and a 4. It was rough for me. I was dying to just check what time it was the whole time, and I couldn't because we were in a theater. Yeah. I had to spy on the person in front of us who was checking the time multiple times and look at their phone.
Yeah, it is long. But yeah, like, I don't know. There's nothing other than it being like focused on the wrong subject, and I would not have had Scorsese come out at the end. Like, I don't know what I would point to and be like, well, that's not good.
They only gave Brendan Fraser 2 lines.
Yeah, but he wasn't good in this.
Well, he deserved to be.
Maybe he could have been better if they'd given him more to do.
2 lines.
Yeah, but that was a weird.
Yeah, but I love him, so
performance.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's just like it cuts to him, and then he like stands up, and then out of nowhere, everyone's like talking at a normal level. He just starts screaming at the court, and then everyone just starts fighting. I'm like, whoa, what is happening?
Yeah, it was very odd.
But yeah, that's our thoughts on Killers of the Flower Moon.
I was sent down from Washington, D.C. to see about these murders.
See what about them?
See who's doing it.
All right, for my pick this week, nothing really looked good in the theaters for me besides Saw 10, but he's never seen any of the Saw movies, so I went for Bodies, 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 which everyone really, really recommended. It came out a little over a year ago. It's directed by Helena Rain, and it follows Sophie as she is a recovering addict who hasn't seen her friends in a long time, and she's bringing her brand new girlfriend to a hurricane party. Basically, they go to one of her friends' mansions, and they plan on holing up and partying while there's a big hurricane. And everyone's basically just the worst. So they start playing a game, and everyone's drinking, and the one who is sober, Sophie, is trying to kind of distract them from drinking games and move on to a game that she can play. So they decide to play Bodies, 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 which is basically like a werewolf wink murderer situation where someone is assigned to be the killer and everyone else goes and like hides, and if the killer touches your back, you have to lay down and die and whatever. And then while they're playing this, their friend Pete Davidson gets... Well, we're not doing spoilers and not spoilers.
Yeah.
Oh.
He dies after the game. Because Lee Pace, they think, dies.
Yeah, that's true. So that Lee Pace is pretending to be dead, and they're trying to guess who the killer is. No, because then they go and play the game some more, and that's when he dies.
Maybe they go and play it more. I thought that devolved into an argument, and they all stormed off, because like Lee Pace is like, I'm going to bed, and... Yeah,
they sent Lee Pace to bed, and whatever, everyone's separate and doing stuff, and then Pete Davidson is at the window with a slashed throat, and they are convinced there's a killer out to get them, and basically the whole time they're trying to figure out which one of them is the killer, and it leads to all these secrets coming out and stuff about them. And yeah, that's really the not spoiler version, but since we're going straight into spoilers, they go and kill Lee Pace, which is devastating to me because I am a Lee Pace girl through and through. He is the best. But they kill him because they think that he's the bad guy because he's like defending himself when they all come at him with knives and hammers. So, you know, a logical thing to do would be to defend yourself. And then he gets killed, and then they're all kind of fighting with each other, and one of them falls down the stairs, and they're trying to decide if she was pushed by someone or whatever. One of the other girls falls over a railing and dies, and then
accidentally gets shot.
One accidentally gets shot, which is also a bummer because she was the best character and she was the only funny one. And then it's just like this couple at the end, and the hurricane's over, and it's the next day, and they find Pete Davidson's phone and realize that he was trying to make a TikTok dance with a sword and accidentally sliced his own throat, so they freaked out for nothing, and there was no killer the whole time, and now all their friends are dead, and they have to explain it, and then it's over. Yeah, it was fine. I didn't think it was worth the hype that everyone gave it out to be, but I also think it was fun enough that it's like a fun movie to like get drunk and watch with your friends.
Yeah, I think if we had watched this when it came out, we would have been like, oh, this is fun. It's a little bit different. It's got okay performances. If you're in a theater with a bunch of people who are enjoying it, it could be fun.
Yeah.
I can see why it got the hype. I think there's also a reason when you talk to people now and go, hey, what's a good horror movie to watch? You don't hear Bodies, Bodies, Bodies that often.
Yeah. For horror comedy, I could see why people really like it. I do really like horror comedies, so had I watched this, I don't know, maybe like even just a couple years ago, I probably would have been like, oh yeah, this is excellent, but you know.
Though I'd also say this is more like a thriller comedy.
Yeah.
There's no horror.
Yeah, besides like the throat slitting, it's not really horror.
It's not even like a slasher, because most people die of just like a gunshot, or, oh, we found their body falling down the stairs, and you don't watch some horrible death. And it's not like you're waiting for something around the corners and there's someone hiding and they jump out and there's no jump scares. Like, it's a thriller of a whodunit intense movie with some comedy baked in.
But if you're looking for one of those, just watch Tucker and Dale versus Evil, because that's the best horror comedy and it has the exact same kind of vibe, but better.
Yeah. So Rachel Sennett is in this, and she's also from Bottoms, which we watched this year, and Shiva Baby, which came out a little while ago, but we watched this year. She's easily the best part of this. Yeah, she's the best part of this, and the only one who's really, like, funny and has bits that I was like, oh, that's clever, or oh, that's well done, or that's funny. Everything else, I don't know, the jokes all kind of, I don't know if there even really are jokes. I think the humor is just they're dumb and wealthy and slowly dying. And once that kind of joke wears off, it is really just like a thriller outside of Rachel Sennett's character. Yeah.
It was fine. I mean, I would watch it again, unlike the other one we watched this week. So
I have nothing against this movie. It's not 3.5 hours, so that's always a benefit. But yeah, I don't know, unless like other people wanted to watch it, I won't return to this.
Which sucks, because we did buy it since it was about the same price as renting.
It's like $1 more to buy it than rent. So we're like, yeah, let's just do it because everyone loved it and maybe it'll be funny and good. It was fine.
Yeah.
All right. So what would you rate this one?
For this one, I'd give it like a 6.5, 7.
Yeah, I'm same 6.5. It's just middle of the road.
Yep.
I'm smart. I'm strong. I'm ready for what comes along. I've got good friends. We'll stick together till silence.
All right, thank you for listening to our episode this week. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Nerd and Normie, and tune in every Monday for a new episode.
And if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. And if you're listening on audio platform, leave us a 5-star review. It really helps us out.
Thank you.